Greetings. Welcome to Mimi P LLC, where body safety and confidence are essential to mental health. I'm Mimi P. Let's do a scenario today. Let's call this scenario that time. You've been at work all day, you went to the grocery store, and now you're at home. The child walks in the door, whether it be your son or your daughter, and they're in the last year of junior high or the first year of high school. Those are the times where the children are more influenced by their friends sometimes than the parent. And hey, you was once there as well. But as you doing groceries, they volunteer to help. And they start a conversation. And they tell you how one of their friends at school, and let's say this friend is the same sex as them. If it's your daughter, it's one of her female friends. If it's a son, it's one of his male friends. And they're talking about how they had got in some trouble and was required to go get counseling. And you go, oh, well, what did they do? Well, they did something, but it had nothing pertaining to what you're getting ready to hear. They just say that, hey, during the session that it was told that they had been molested when they were younger. And you're like, oh, I'm so sorry. That's our thing, huh? Well, how did that make you feel? And they said, well, they said it during the session that the counselor asked them, what did their parents do about it? And they said the parents didn't know anything about it. For whatever reason it may be, they were embarrassed. Hey, after it was over, they didn't want to think about it anymore. And that it hadn't happened just once. It doesn't make a difference whether it was a sibling, a babysitter, daycare center, coach, or whoever, even a step parent or grandparent. But it was not someone in the actual home at the time. Even a sibling can be an older sibling that no longer lives there. Or maybe it was a sibling in the home. But the important thing is, as they're saying that, you're saying, I'm sorry and I feel sorry for them, I don't know. But the child says, well, I told them it happened to me also. And they told me I needed to tell you. You're in shock, total shock. You can't believe this moment is here. It is that time. And it's not someone else. It's you. How do you handle that? Had you ever thought that that could be a possibility? Most people don't. And here you are now. You're not putting up the groceries anymore. You're staring at the child. The child is in frantic himself or herself. And now it's time, hey, maybe to stop putting up the groceries or continue to put up the groceries. The groceries help you both deal with the subject without looking at each other in any kind of way. You love that child. You want to embrace that child. That may be a good idea, but maybe the child say no. Let the child kind of lead you along the way at this point. Should we talk about it and sit down? They say, I don't want to. Okay, do you want to finish putting up the groceries and let's talk about it? If they say, I don't want to, they just want to leave it alone, let them know it's something that needs to be dealt with right now. Because later on, you won't have the courage that you have just taken a step. Let them know you have walked into what you didn't want to do. And you're now doing it because you know it's the best. That's courage. When you're fearful and don't know the outcome, you're still walking through it, looking for the best outcome. Listen, you're terrified, and you have to know you're second. That child's protection of his mental state is as the first thing, and their safety. So now you talk. And it wasn't someone else in your home. Your case is that child was not, boundaries were not crossed by someone who actually lives in the same house. You have other children, but it wasn't them. Let's say it was a cousin that came over quite often, not to be with that child, but one of the other siblings. whether it be an older sister or an older brother, or it could have been the babysitter. They weren't a real small baby, but they were in elementary school. How about somebody that you had that had children, and there was a playmate that just came over and was their age? But that person, although they friendly and everything, when nobody around, they was able to put the fear in your child. How do you handle these things? First of all, do you call the other parent? Children have two parents. If you're still in contact and that person is showing that they have interest in that child and care and love for that child, do you notify them? Do you call the police? Do you hurry up and call your mama or your sister or your brother? I caution who you call. It doesn't need to get all out into the family network. It don't need to get all out into the community. It needs to be handled strategically. You're in a hurtful space, but how you handle it can cause more confusion. You never thought about it. Do you call children's services? I'm going to tell you, I don't have the answers you're looking for. I'm just bringing awareness to what you need to do. Sit down and plan it out. You think you got it all together, but in that moment of panic, you're all in frustration, fear, hurt, and you too looking for somebody to help you navigate. Understand what you do in this time affects your child. They don't need to go to school and hear that you called one of your so-called best friend and they talking in front of the children, and then they children go tell somebody else, and now the kids are teasing them, or even to say, hey, I'm sorry that boundaries were crossed or you were molested or whatever. It puts the kids in a state of shame that's not even theirs, and it can cause more harm. It could break your relationship. Forgot to teach the children about a code. Or you taught them about the code and the child still didn't say anything. What if your child say, I didn't want it to happen again. I thought they wouldn't do it again. They said they won't do it again. It wasn't that if you tell I'm going to do such and such. It was it won't happen again. It didn't happen every time they visited or every time they babysat. But what do? The one who did cross the boundaries was under the age of 18 at the time. Your child was younger and still is younger than that person. And they have not yet reached the age of 18. Do you call the police? Do you call children's services? Because that person is now an adult. I don't know these answers. But I give y'all an opportunity to bring these up so you can look into it. States vary. Sometimes it doesn't make a difference that they're 18. It could have been once they were 16. Laws change. A lot of things has happened. One thing for sure is help is needed. How will you get that help? Will you look into that in your faith community? The Lord loves you. And your pastor may or may not know who to direct you to. A lot of pastors are now getting some understanding, and they can be support. But it can't be always that they may be possibly to do the counseling because they haven't had the expertise, but they can direct you to someone. How about contacting Children's Hospital in your community to see if they have a behavioral science center where they counsel children? And if that child was under the age of 18, maybe they, as an adult, can get some counseling because it was at a time when they were still considered a teen, under the age of 18. How do you confront the person? And confront is not always a bad thing. People's reactions of it give it a bad name. To confront somebody is to bring forth an issue of conflict, to seek a peaceful reconciliation or a peaceful agreement or some type where things are resolved in a peaceful manner. It's not to be brought up to be fighting and arguing, all of that stuff. People give the term confront the wrong meaning. Since that person was underage, how do you approach the parent? They too have a need to know what their child has done to somebody else's. Do you handle it? Do you let children's services, the police, or someone else handle it? Understand, running to your family may not be the best thing. So sit down and think about these things now. If this happened, let me write it down. And you say, well, write it down for what? You write it down. So it's a thought process, something intentional. Maybe look on the internet, call the police department and say, hey, I'm just wondering, this lady on YouTube or Mimi PLLC says such and such. Bring up the conversation when you're in your groups, your female groups, your male groups. Bring up these scenarios. As somebody in law enforcement, hey, I'm just wondering. I was watching Mimi PLLC. And I'm trying to educate my children and become a more aware and alert. Why is it a frightening situation where people don't want to bring it up? You hear stories, you read books. Some have experienced it on their own. But why aren't we protecting our children? Understand that when you're talking to this child, the child may just cuddle up, run to another room or whatever and cry. But you also need to know this is a trauma to you. It's a less degree of trauma. Remember, the child is the greater. You're only traumatized in just finding out, and it's a hurtful thing. But their mentality and safety is your first defense. Protect them. Understand, you have to talk to your child in a manner in which they don't feel that you're going to go out and harm somebody. Telling them you're going to kill somebody. I say this very often. Telling them you'll kill somebody or you're going to get back at them, it's not the way to handle it. Your child don't want you in there serving time in jail or prison. Now you're taken away from them. How can you keep them safe when you're locked up? They don't need the scandal in the newspaper and on the news or YouTube how you've been arrested. It may help your ego, but all you did was cause more harm to them. And as a parent, understand they need counseling. If you take them to counseling, they need counseling without you there. They need freedom to express. I know you close and can't nobody tell you about your child. Is that you defending you? More than likely so. But you left the child out the equation. We all feel at times more comfortable to talk to someone else than those that we're around all the time. Somebody that can't make judgment or say, well, yeah, I knew he was like that or she was like that. It's also important that you get details. Sit down with the child. I always suggest keeping a pen and paper somewhere in the house in every room. So when things happen, you got something quick. Write down some things. When did it happen? How many times did it happen? Even write these things down now as I'm saying it. Child might say, I don't know. Don't say, well, you got to know. You said it happened more than once. Be careful of your tone. Now you're shutting the child down. That's why they need counselors. Somebody who's been trained to stay and maintain an even keel. Somebody that's neutral to the whole situation and isn't jumping to some conclusion. Isn't always thinking, oh, I didn't protect you when I should have. As a parent, we feel that way. If our kids fall and scrape their knees, oh, I should have protected you. Some say, no, I'll let them do it because they'll learn to get tough. Yes. But on situations like this, you don't never say, well, it happens. Oh, this man up, girl up, it'll be all right. Move on. It happens. I have people say that, like, what? And I say it to them, what? That's how you feel? Well, this happened to my mom or this happened to me. Then why would you want your child to go through it and have nobody there to help them walk through it, to heal? And then what about the one that crossed the boundaries? A niece, a nephew, a babysitter. She's totally or he's totally not related to the family. Yet it's somebody you trusted to come in. Somebody you thought had the qualifications and the character to keep your children safe, because that was they was there for. Yes, they was there to keep the house from burning down. But they also was there to make sure that nobody did any harm. And yet they was the one that did the harm. And listen, they know they did the harm. And we know it was intentional. It didn't, oops. What is your feelings about that person? But how you handle it, even through then, you need help to process it. And what about if they were a child then? They need help as well. No, it's not up to your duty to get that done. But I'm saying that to show you, to expect you to understand the importance of how you approach that child's parent or them even now as an adult. Because they parent want that child to get help too, even as an adult. It may have happened when they were younger, but you know the consequences. That's the importance of teaching children consequences. And understand, parents, everybody doesn't come with an apology. Or an apology may not be sincere. So when a child said they told me it wouldn't happen again. Because you're saying, well, why'd you let that happen? Well, they said it wouldn't happen again. And it didn't for a while. And then again, it did happen. And they felt, well, stupid. Help your children give you some descriptions. Dumb. They say, I don't know what that means. Have a dictionary. Or you tell them. The thing is, the child needs to be able to express it. And take this as an opportunity to see some brightness in it. I got this scarf on. It's got colors. Once a child tell you it's no more just a dark secret that's eating and infested in them, that's growing and growing, and you don't know at what point it's going to explode. There's people who have gone through successful lives and then turn around and tell something like that. You'd be like, what? And they'll say, it's been eating them up. I've heard interviews. And I've had some interviews with people, with me and them. It wasn't on YouTube or on a station or anything. We were face to face. Or in a group that I go to, a spiritual group, there's been people who've mentioned it in a Bible study session. It's not a group of the church I originally attend. You can attend Bible study of the same faith with someone else and other people. And a lot of them say they don't really know why they didn't tell, or they just didn't want to hurt their mom, or their mom was in a new relationship, or it was their cousin. They don't know what to say. They didn't know what to feel. But I also have heard how parents have educated their children. And I'm going to tell you, repetitive, redundant, over and over, all of those is what gave the children to understand that they can go and tell. Every year, especially in elementary, they talk about stranger danger. Every year, especially in elementary, they talk about inappropriate touch. That's crossing boundaries. Every year, some cases are reported. Every year, some cases are not. Teachers are trying to educate children on things they need to learn, and some of those children are just bogged down with such pain. You don't know why your child all of a sudden is acting up. Now, when they come and tell you why you putting away the groceries, now things is beginning to click. Listen, I don't have a list that you can go down, but I bring it to you so you can start thinking about it. What is the number to Children's Services? What is the emergency number to the police? We all say 911, but if it's an incident such as we just did in this scenario, that's the non-emergency number. Unless somebody is going to harm somebody else, that's the non-emergency. And I do ask, if you call the other parent and they say, I'm going to do this, call 911. It could be they go to do something and they be the ones hurt. Or even if they hurt the other person, now they got to go to jail. Again, I stress, don't put more on that child to feel that they've done something wrong. Who do you trust? And when I say who do you trust, how have they handled things before in the past of things you consider to be dear to you and you share it with them? Was they truly worth trusting again? What is Children's Services number? Do they have a behavioral? You don't know? Why not get that number and call and ask? But repeating with the children over and over, to collectively and separately. And explain to your children what you do as a child can too follow you into adulthood. Are you going to have a conversation with the family? If it's been a niece or a cousin, how are that going to affect your relationships? It can ruin families. Marriages can be broken up over it. You need the help. Again, I'm the author Mimi P. My Body is a Sacrifice, and the instructor and parental guide to My Body is a Sacrifice. Remember, the child's safety and mental health and the importance of having a voice is what we are to educate our children. Visit me again here at Mimi P LLC. Hit the like button and tap that notification bell. Protect yours. Have a good day.